2020. This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com with my daily combat sports news update. There's already a lot of you on here: Colonel Quayle, Michael Law, Jay-Z, Underdog, Chug Alert, Big Brother Thunder 13, and Michael Delator. There's not a huge amount of news today, but I'll get into it. Dave Meltzer has confirmed that Elias was written off of television last week due to a torn pectoral muscle. A lot of people, I don't agree with this, but a lot of people seem to think that I look a lot like Elias. Wouldn't it be funny if they just replaced Elias with me with absolutely no explanation, and then whenever he's better, they bring him back? I think that would be pretty funny. New Japan Pro Wrestling is going to hold a press conference at 11 p.m. on Monday after Raw about the future of New Japan. It's unknown exactly what they're going to announce, but according to Dave Meltzer, it could be that they're going to do a major show with an arena with fans, but not necessarily at full capacity, or it could be that they're just going to announce the start of empty arena events. The one point to think about is right now for foreigners in Japan, they need to be quarantined for 2 weeks once they arrive in Japan. So guys like Haku's son, Tama Tonga, and others, I'll be honest with you, that's the only foreigner I know that wrestles for New Japan and lives outside of Japan, because I think this Will Ospreay little guy, I think he lives in Japan now. So any major stars coming from other countries will have to be quarantined, so they'll have to fly them over pretty soon if that show is going to happen soon. As far as UFC, the fallout from UFC last night with Conor McGregor saying he's retired, a lot of people say this is just a negotiation ploy to get more money. He's done this numerous times before. UFC 250 did have 1.5 million Google searches yesterday, which is pretty good considering all the other crap in the news with these insane riots going on all across the U.S. Lots of crazy stuff happening. Definitely makes me want to rethink ever moving there. George Masvidal wants more money right now to fight in UFC again. That's another fighter that's having negotiation issues with Dana White. I guess one of the issues is when he fought Nick Diaz at that MSG show, he was paid more than what they're offering Masvidal now. So he wants to make at least the same money. But you have to take into consideration UFC took in $6 million as a live gate for that MSG show. And right now they're not doing shows with fans. However, they could technically run Florida with fans now, because Florida is allowing wrestling, MMA, concerts, plays in front of fans as long as the shows are at half capacity, which, as I said, that's no issue for WWE, because most of their TV tapings these days, unless it's something real special, they're not operating beyond half capacity at these major arenas that they run. What they'll do is they'll curtain half the arena off and they'll still say it's a sellout. Even if they curtain off 3/4 of the arena, they'll say, well, the quarter of the arena that we had opened was a sellout. Joe Rogan, the reason why he was not doing in the Octagon interviews last night was because the State Athletic Commission in Nevada wouldn't allow it. That's why the interviews were remote post-fight. There's no update on who the next opponent for Amanda Nunes could be. Felicia Spencer took a hell of a beating last night. A lot of people thought the fight should have been stopped in the 4th round. And it reminded me of this girl that had the scratch on her head from WWE, this tiny little scratch, and everyone is saying, "Get well soon, you poor thing," blah, 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 blah. But then you look at Felicia Spencer and the beating she took, and it just shows you why wrestlers or MMA fighters are considered far tougher than wrestlers now. You also have Ronda Rousey going around saying wrestling's fake. But when such a big deal is made about a little scratch, like that angle out of last week's Raw, I don't even remember her name, but the Asian girl that Nia Jax threw into the chair, and whether she did a blade job or the injury was because she didn't put her hand up. It just shows you like the big deal that they're making out of it makes wrestlers look like wimps. And someone even commented, because I said last night that McGregor should seriously consider going to WWE. They could pay him probably more money than he'd make in a UFC fight, so he wouldn't have to worry about his reputation. A lot of these WWE wrestlers are the same size as Conor McGregor these days, so he'd fit in from that standpoint. He's a better talker than probably everyone in WWE right now. And yeah, WWE could use a star right now as a boost. Somebody bet $1 million on Amanda Nunes last night, and I guess made $166,666.70 since Nunes won. And I guess the $1 million bet on that fight was the highest bet ever placed on an MMA fight. And before I get into your questions, I just want to thank Darren, who messaged me at greatnorthwrestling@gmail.com and pointed out to me that there's been a lot of bots on my videos lately saying want to be friends, want to collaborate, basically posting the same comment repeatedly on all my videos. And even on my second channel, Devon Nicholson, which you should all subscribe to, because I do post some custom content on that second channel. That one doesn't have as many subscribers, but I still get these wannabe friends bots commenting on the channel, and I researched it a bit. If you guys see these type of comments, don't interact with them. I'm blocking them now because apparently if you click on them and you subscribe to them, these bots can somehow hack your YouTube account. So these are not friendly people asking, want to be friends, want to collaborate. These people can actually reportedly hack your account. So don't interact with them. And I'm going to do my best to block them if I see posts from these bots asking these wannabe friends type questions on YouTube. So I'll get into some of your questions. Michael Delator says, I like your video that I did with Road Warrior Animal, but I want to know if you'll ever interview his brother, the Terminator. And he had another brother out there. His other brother is John Laurinaitis, who is now the senior producer for SmackDown, which, by the way, someone asked if I ever had any interactions with John Laurinaitis back when he was head of WWE Talent Relations. The only interactions I had with John Laurinaitis was basically he was always very busy backstage anytime I was an extra. I remember particularly after my SmackDown match with Heidenreich, he told me that he knew I was going to Puerto Rico and he was going to keep an eye on me out there, so to make sure that he got good reports from Puerto Rico about me. And then the other thing that stands out to me, when they called me to actually hire me for WWE, one question he asked me, it was a conference call with Ty Bailey, who was in charge of developmental talent at the time, and John Laurinaitis, who was the head of talent relations. And it was funny because I did challenge someone to a fight at the tryout I was hired from, and I remember Steve Kern told me when I left the tryout, the last thing he told me was, "Don't worry about that little incident. We're going to keep it quiet here. No one's going to know." And then the first thing that John Laurinaitis asked me was, "What the hell happened with that fight thing?" So I found that funny. But the other weird question he asked me was, "What makes you better than Mike Knox?" So I found that weird, but didn't really have any experience with him other than those brief conversations. I see Mike Hamilton has tipped me $10. You give me a lot of tips, Mike. Thank you very much. He says, "Do I think it's a joke that WWE has the NXT roster sitting together in a crowd as fans for Raw and SmackDown shows? Do they expect fans to truly believe this crap? Kayfabe is truly dead." Well, now in Florida, technically as of right now, because as of Friday, you could have fans in the crowd again. So it'll be interesting to see if WWE is going to start doing shows with fans in the crowd. But from what I understand, they are taping a lot of shows tomorrow, Raw, SmackDown, a bunch of episodes, as well as Tuesday. And from what I understand, they're not going to have actual fans in the crowd for those shows. But I do find it interesting that they do have all those developmental talent and NXT wrestlers in the crowd. None of them are wearing masks, as Piper just opened my door here to say hi to everyone. I know everyone likes when I show her on camera. But yeah, for the other point I want to make about that development talent sitting in the crowd is they could pull off an angle like that Nia Jax thing where they reshot her throwing that other girl into the stairs without anyone knowing any difference, whether you wouldn't be able to tell if the stairs thing was reshot or if that was the original stairs throw, because everyone in the crowd works for WWE. So if anything leaked out, it could cause them heat. So it's good for them when mistakes happen in the match, or if a match isn't very good, they can ask people to redo it. But as you said, it is kind of lame. I'm sure it won't be long before they get real fans in the crowd. So thanks again, Mike Hamilton, for that tip. Big Brother Thunder says thoughts on Marty Squirrel. Never seen him wrestle. He's another small wrestler, overrated, in my opinion. There's too many of these mini wrestlers, as I like to call them, in wrestling these days. Chug Alert says this update's going to be lit as usual. Underdog says superstar Billy Graham is the man. And if you look in the description of this video, I put a link to Billy Graham's GoFundMe. It is his birthday today. He turned 77 years old today. He won the world title in 1977. So if any of you are Billy Graham fans, whether it's $2, $5, $10, $50, $100, give him a donation to his GoFundMe. I highly suggest that. Billy Graham inspired Hulk Hogan. Hogan took brother from him, pythons from him, the shirt rip from him, the can cut from him. Billy Graham did all that first. Ric Flair took a lot from Billy Graham, and Ric Flair has praised Billy Graham. Flair used to drive Billy around, carry his bags. Billy Graham's ex-wife did Ric Flair's first ever dye job. Jesse Ventura was inspired by Billy Graham. Always credits Billy Graham, unlike Hogan. Scott Steiner took a lot of his look from Billy Graham. So anyone that wants to help Billy Graham out, the GoFundMe is in his description. Give him anything. He has skin cancer. He has serious breathing problems. He can't work. He can't walk 30 feet without having serious breathing issues. And this guy, in his day, when you main evented Madison Square Garden, back in the days where he would actually sell out the Garden plus the Felt Forum, which I think held another 3,000 or 4,000, his payoff would be about 5,000 US. And that was back in the 70s. So he didn't make a lot of money. It's not like it is today where you have Seth Rollins making millions of dollars and he can't draw flies. So if anyone wants to help him out, please help him out. Colonel Quayle says, Trump makes a speech. I'm not racist. I'm not even going to get into that. I don't want to talk about politics. I mean, I tried to listen to the Wrestling Observer radio today. It was all about politics. I want to try and stay away from politics, other than the one thing I'll continuously comment on. Even in my town today, we're not in riots, but there's like 10,000 people downtown protesting, but they can't open the gyms and just make a rule, stay 6 feet away from each other, wear masks. The gyms are still closed. I am doing my home workouts. I'm flipping tires. I'm sledgehammering tires, running every night, fight training in my basement. But my God, do I miss the gyms. Mark Darkshadow, happy birthday, superstar. William Hamby, what are some of my favorite metal bands? There's a lot of them. As I drink my coffee because I'm running after this. Scorpions, Twisted Sister. I did interview Dee Snider. People should look that up on there. Motley Crue's probably right up there at the top of my metal band favorites list as well. Def Leppard, I don't mind. I love so many of them. Warrant, Skid Row, Rat, which Rat I heard Round and Round is back in like the Billboard top 20 hits because Round and Round's been featured in a commercial lately, and they've had like a second coming. Quiet Riot is good. I like so many I can't even begin to name them all. Kevin Wine says Elias tore his pecs strumming his guitar. Sam Len says Hulk Hogan should really throw Superstar a fat check. And I agree with that because Hulk Hogan just got a Gawker settlement. Not Gawker, but what's his name? Bubba the Love Sponge, who leaked that video to Gawker, settled a lawsuit with Hogan. He got a huge payment out of that, reportedly. He got a huge Saudi Arabia payday recently. But Ted Arcidi, who was a lower card guy, at one point donated $4,000 to Superstar Billy Graham's GoFundMe. Yet Hulk Hogan hasn't donated one penny to help out Superstar Billy Graham with all he took from Superstar Billy Graham. So that's shameful, in my opinion, 100% for sure. Alan Kesselman says WWE is goofy enough to do that with the replacing me with Elias, or replacing Elias with me. I just think that would be funny. By the way, there's some stuff going on. I don't know if you guys know, Luke Gallows is doing a new gimmick. I've been talking to him a lot lately, and he's doing a new comedy gimmick, making all sorts of videos. Apparently he's going to send me one to post on here soon. And I am working on possibly doing a career interview with Gallows next month at his home in Georgia if they would open up the border. So I hope they do open up the border sooner or later. Underdog says, don't move to the big cities and you'll be good. The riots are really dumb. It's a shame that so many innocent people are getting hurt in these riots, and these business owners, a lot of them don't have insurance and are getting their businesses destroyed. Garrett Mintulo says, what are these UFC fighters bitching about? Is the pay that bad? Come on. Well, for the stars, they feel they should be paid more. For the lower card fighters, I'm sure they'll take whatever they can get. But if UFC is looking for a heavyweight guy that'll come in at lower pay, I'm open to negotiations for sure. Slim McClurkin, what's my opinion of EC3? I only had one interaction with him at an Impact Wrestling show I was on where he was chewing tobacco, and that stood out to me that he was a big tobacco chewer because he didn't strike me as someone that would. But that was literally my only interaction with him. I've never seen him wrestle. Garrett Manutu says he agrees with Underdog. He doesn't think the pay is bad for UFC fighters, I think. Eric is asking me who I think will be WWE's next top male wrestler. I haven't really seen any of the lower card guys, and the ones I have seen, I haven't been that impressed with. So to answer your question, if they bring in Conor McGregor, that could be their top male wrestler, but he would never work a full-time schedule. They would never be able to afford that. So to answer that question, no one I've seen that is signed right now could be their next top male wrestler. Alan Kesselman says Triple H likes the small guys. Yes, he likes the pint-sized brawlers. 100% for sure. David Fontaine says Felicia Spencer showed the heart of a true warrior last night. I agree. Patriot 88 says Trump 2020. Some guy has a really long name. Sorry, I can't say it. He says Lacey Evans versus Amanda Nunes. As that would be a good drawing feud for sure. And who knows? Ronda Rousey only lasted like seconds with Amanda Nunes. So Lacey Evans could probably do better than Ronda Rousey did in her last fight. Jay-Z says McGregor versus Gronk. Gronk's no longer under WWE contract. You could say that was a failed experiment. Patriot 88 says AEW is garbage. Al says Gronk versus Tyson Tyson versus McGregor and AEW. I don't think AEW would shell out the money that McGregor would want. And to be honest, as bad as WWE's booking is, their booking is better than what I've seen in AEW as far as they're both bad, but if I had to sit through WWE or AEW, I would choose WWE. I think they would book McGregor better because if McGregor appeared in AEW, whoever he did the angle with would be in a picture that night, friendly, smiling together like they did with Tyson and Jericho. So I wouldn't want to see McGregor in AEW. Kerwin says Drake Maverick at 5'4" is taller than the Young Bucks. I don't know how tall the Young Bucks are. They're definitely on the small side, though. Al Hirschman says Felt Forum would seat 7,000 fans in the 70s. So that is interesting to know. So Billy would sell out Madison Square Garden with over 20,000 fans plus 7,000 in the Felt Forum. And keep in mind, AAA tried to run the Felt Forum, or they tried to run Madison Square Garden last year. It was moved to the Felt Forum. And when they moved the main show to the Felt Forum, I believe it was under 3,000 in the Felt Forum. So Billy Graham also held the most consecutive sellout records for Madison Square Garden, as I lose my voice here. Now, keep in mind, when Kofi Kingston headlined Madison Square Garden for that SmackDown taping last September, there was only about 7,000 fans total in the building. It was the lowest drawing SmackDown taping of all time in Madison Square Garden, and they even added The Undertaker for an appearance on the show at the last minute because it was just bombing in ticket sales. Carlos says, I just wanted to say hello. Hello, Carlos. Jay-Z says McGregor versus Robocop. Yeah, that would be good to see. Beasters Cars Corner says, why does Tony Khan employ a convicted rapist while being so left? I guess your criminal past and your past history in general doesn't matter if you're a celebrity, but if you're a low card guy, they'll brutalize you for it. But yes, not only is Mike Tyson a convicted rapist, but I actually looked it up the other day. He's considered a tier 2 sex offender. Johnny Boots says WWE doesn't even have the money to book McGregor. They do. They're making hundreds of millions of dollars off of their TV deals. So they could bring in McGregor if they wanted a boost in popularity. Kevin Wynn says, have I banned Linda Hogan from my channel? I would interview Linda Hogan, to be perfectly honest with you guys. I think she's I'm not even going to comment on Linda Hogan. I don't approve of her tweet from earlier this week. I don't think it was well thought out of, but I would find it interesting to interview her. I would certainly interview her for sure. Lots of questions today. Slim McClellan says no AEW talent can challenge for the TNT. If non-AEW talent could challenge for the TNT title, would I come out of retirement for a match with Cody? He wouldn't wrestle me. I guarantee you. He wouldn't wrestle me. Would I come out of retirement for a match with Cody? Yes, because the fans would want to see that. And there's a promo. I was supposed to have a match with Cody Rhodes in August of 2018. I had been negotiating with his agent to have that match in Great North Wrestling. That was before the AEW announcement happened. And he had agreed to a date. We even booked the show specifically on a Sunday because he was already booked on a Friday and Saturday. But they said he could do the match on a Sunday. But unfortunately, a job for his Arrow show that he appeared on came up, and the match ended up falling through. They said they tried to reschedule, but very soon after, AEW was announced and he wasn't taking any more indie bookings other than ones where he was good buddies with the promoters. So that match almost happened in 2018. Is Lars Sullivan, the gay porn star, still with WWE? Garrett is asking. I believe he is. Somehow they have not released Lars Sullivan yet. MS Song says US Bank Stadium would work. I'm guessing that must be for some kind of outdoor show. I don't know what you're referring to on there. Neo GX, thoughts on Max Payne wrestling documentary that never got released. I'd have to know more about it. Some people have asked me to do an interview with Max Payne. If somebody wants to send me his contact information, greatnorthwrestling@gmail.com. I would love to do an interview with Max Payne. Ben is asking me thoughts on OF. I do not know who OF is. Kevin Wine says the Young Bucks combined are 5'10". Ben is asking me if I think I'm tough because I chopped a fan asshole. Well, I've never actually chopped a fan. Thanks for labeling me with that, which, by the way, I don't care. I'm a heel. I've never chopped a fan that hasn't asked me to chop to chop them. And if you're referring to the video I have on this channel where I was at a bar and a fan asked me to chop them, the fan asked me to chop them. So there's been many cases. I've even said there's been fans that have asked me to chop them and actually called the cops on me. So it's funny that people are like that. I could do a whole hour podcast on just chopping incidents that I've had. But no, I don't feel sorry for someone that thinks wrestling's fake or thinks my chops don't hurt and asks me to chop them. then they don't like it when I chop them. If a fan asks me to chop them, I'll chop them as I'll chop anyone. And yes, in the dungeon, it wouldn't be uncommon for me to have to take 60 chops a practice. So I have no pity for someone that's going to cry over a few chops. Al just tipped me $5 and says, can I interview Vampiro? I bet that we'll get along with UFO talk and music. I've never heard about Vampiro being interested in UFOs. I'd be open to interviewing Vampiro for sure. The old email address I had for him no longer works. And the last phone number I had for him was when he lived in Thunder Bay, and he no longer lives there. So I don't know how to contact him, but yes, I would interview him for sure. If it's one thing to ask me to interview people, but it's a big help if you guys would send me their contact information, because a lot of these guys are elusive. I've actually been working on trying to get so many interviews with experts in the UFO field lately, and these people are so elusive. But also for wrestlers, it's really hard these days because the border's closed and not everyone has Skype or the ability to do online interviews. So it's been a real pain. But I appreciate everyone that is subscribed at patreon.com/the Hannibal TV. My full shoot interviews are posted on it there ad-free before they're ever posted in full on YouTube. So we're getting more and more supporters on there, and I am working on some good interviews for next week. Steve says the NXT roster looks like action figures, mini action figures. And Adam Cole probably looks like them the most. This guy says, Steve Ferrari. I agree with you. They're all little guys, other than a few. There's a few exceptions, like Killer Cross, who's a good guy, and I do think he's a good wrestler. He has potential. Someone's asking me wrestlers that have potential. Karrion Kross, I like him personally too. A couple more questions. Cameron Neidhoff, thoughts on Ric Flair? I would love to do an interview with him. My experiences with him overall have been good, although he wouldn't do an interview with me on camera when I asked him. He's one of the top wrestlers of all time, without going into it too much. Shockmaster Shoot, someone's asking, very possible. I almost had one a few years ago in Florida when I was in Florida, but unfortunately he had a health scare when I got down there and he had to cancel because he was in the hospital. Hopefully we can redo it. Johnny Boots says people still use Skype. Yes, and the only platform I know how to record on is Skype. And it seems to be the most reliable one and the easiest one to use. So until the borders back open again, which hopefully it'll be soon, I will be doing my interviews on Skype. M Song, did I ever wrestle in Minnesota? No, I've never even been to Minnesota. It's one of the places I'd like to go on an interview trip. Someone says, better hurry for that Flair interview. He's probably not going to be around much longer. Flair won't do an interview with me because he's just re-signed with WWE. So a Flair interview in all likelihood will never happen for those reasons. Chug Alert, do I subscribe to Sunny OnlyFans? No. I did find her attractive back around 96. I no longer find her attractive at all. But I would do a shoot interview with her. Someone says Keithley is fat, but he makes up for it with his wrestling. I believe Keithley is another guy like Killer Kross and a lot of these guys, Jake Atlas, who I interviewed, that used to wrestle for PCW Ultra, which I'm a big supporter of PCW Ultra. I hope they're back up and running again soon. Mitch Wooten says, would I interview Arn Anderson? Yes, I would. And I'm going to end it at that. There's a lot of questions still to go, but I want to get out there and hit the pavement run. So thanks for all your questions. Joel says thoughts on One Man Gang. I liked him. I liked him as One Man Gang and as Akeem. We are on Instagram and Twitter at the Hannibal TV. And I do have a second YouTube channel, Devon Nicholson, if you want to look that one up. We do post some custom content on there. And we do have the Great North Wrestling Podcast on iTunes. I do post my full shoot interviews on there, and they are ad-free. There's no ads on our iTunes page. So if you look in the description of this video, or you go to thehannibaltv.com, you can click on the link to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. And we do have a Teesprings t-shirt page as well. Somebody said I should do a t-shirt for people that keep telling me to smile, telling them to F off, and maybe I will one day. I had one guy basically yesterday, he was nice enough to tip me, which I did appreciate, but then he alludes that I'm suicidal because I don't smile all the time. And I actually found that insulting. To accuse someone of being suicidal, that's an insult in my book. And I'm certainly not. I'm doing great on YouTube. I have more subscribers than Jim Ross, Jim Cornette, Conrad Thompson's podcasts. I have more video views in the past 2 months than Ring of Honor, MLW, NWA, and New Japan Pro Wrestling. So I'm doing great. I'm very happy. I'm just not the smiling type that has to smile 100% of the time. So have a great night, everyone. Appreciate all the